The majority of people work around 40 hours a week, if not more. But how many of these people dedicate even just 1 hour a week to educating themselves and learning about how to better manage their finances? I'll be honest, I don't know the exact figure myself, but I can assure you that they are relatively few. And not spending time trying to understand how to better manage one's finances doesn't make much sense when you think about the amount of time and energy spent to bring home a paycheck at the end of the month. Unfortunately, this is not something we are taught in school, so it's up to us, in our free time, to try to acquire the necessary knowledge on the subject. In today's video, I'll talk about financial illiteracy, namely the most common thinking mistakes made by those who do not dedicate the necessary time to educate themselves in this field. And I know that ignorance is considered a strong word by many, but it isn't. All of us are ignorant in something. Not even Einstein knew everything about everything. So if you see yourself in some of the points listed in this video, simply take it as a critique in a specific area. And then, if you want to improve your knowledge, study the subject. Let's start by looking at 10 typical signs of a person who is financially illiterate. 1. Not having an emergency fund. Not having an emergency fund can make us vulnerable to financial emergencies. This is the most basic point of financial education, yet today a large part of the population lives paycheck to paycheck without saving anything. And if, by pure misfortune, these people were to face an unexpected event, or worse, lose their job, they would risk ending up on the street. In the United States, for example, 57% of Americans have less than $1,000 set aside. If you're now thinking, I earn too little, I can't afford to save, do it anyway. If you really want to, you'll find a way. And yes, it will require sacrifices. 2. Buying things they can't afford. Purchasing expensive items that are out of financial reach can lead to unsustainable debt. If you have $10,000 saved and buy a $30,000 motorcycle simply because you like it and pay for it in installments, you are buying something you can't afford. Just buy a smaller motorcycle. Before making significant purchases, evaluate your payment capacity and make financially wise choices. Making impulse purchases to satisfy not a real need, but often a short-term pleasure, is a typical characteristic of people who are poorly educated in financial matters. 3. Living day-to-day. Living day-to-day without financial planning can lead to instability and financial worries. Anyone, whether earning $1,000 a month or $1 million a month, should learn to manage their budget and plan for the future. The irony of those who spend everything they earn immediately, believing they are enjoying life more than those who also invest and save for the future, is not realizing that even in the medium term, the latter will be in a more stable financial position. They will also be in a position to spend more than those who have the habit of spending everything right away, with a more stable situation to avoid both economic worries and the need to rely on others in case of need due to their irresponsible choices. Be careful. This does not mean that one should not enjoy life and have experiences in youth that he would no longer be able to have in old age. It simply means diligently tracking one's finances and not overdoing it with superfluous or unnecessary expenses. 4. Hating rich people. According to financially uneducated people, rich people are all dishonest and opportunistic and offer no value to society. However, it's difficult for someone to become wealthy if they do not provide a product or service that in some way offers value to someone else, who is happy to pay for that product or service. Some people harbor hatred towards anyone who is rich, an attitude often caused by frustration and believing they deserve more, whether true or not. But approaching life this way brings no benefit. Instead of hating, let's learn to look around and learn how to capitalize on the financial opportunities that present themselves. 5. Thinking that buying a house is always better than renting. This is one of the most common mistakes. Many think that paying rent is always a bad idea, but in reality, it offers flexibility and freedom from maintenance costs and property taxes. Thinking that buying is always better than renting, in every circumstance, is not only a very superficial analysis, but also fundamentally incorrect and limiting. 6. Frequently borrowing money from relatives and friends. Constantly depending on financial help from relatives and friends can indicate a lack of financial responsibility. Each of us should learn to manage our own money independently and plan for future expenses without having to weigh on the finances of others, because yes, others have their own lives and expenses to deal with. 7. Investing on impulse. Hoping to get rich. Quick. Investing in stocks or cryptocurrencies without proper planning can lead to financial losses. Just as it is wrong not to invest your money and let it rot in the bank, it is even worse to invest on impulse, following the latest trend in the hope of getting rich quickly. The problem for many people is a lack of patience and the inability to think of investing as a long-term endeavor. They cherry-pick too much. They see, in hindsight, that an investment has made sensational returns in a short period of time and get caught up in the rush to emulate it as soon as possible, taking risks they often can't afford to take, and then end up crying when they've lost their savings, not understanding that the fault is solely their own. As a rule, if someone promises you risk-free investment returns that seem too good to be true, they probably are. If you have a friend or relative who talks about dream investments with no risk, they most likely don't know what they're talking about. This doesn't mean not being willing to take risks, but there's a difference between taking controlled risks and playing the lottery. 8. Having zero investments. This is the other side of the coin. Not investing means missing the opportunity to grow our savings over time. Investments, if made analytically and responsibly, can yield significant returns and can help us achieve our financial goals. It's important, therefore, to educate ourselves and start building an investment portfolio in line with our risk tolerance as soon as possible, so that we can then let these investments grow over time. Basically, there is no investment that is the best for everyone. For example, a 25-year-old man with a well-paying job should have a portfolio more open to risk than a 65-year-old man ready to retire. Having no investments is fundamentally a serious mistake and a sign of poor financial literacy. 9. Not having financial goals. Not having financial goals means lacking a clear direction for our financial life. It's important to understand that goals, both financial and otherwise, are not the same for everyone. Therefore, it's necessary to establish specific and achievable goals and plan the path to reach them. Again, not doing so is a sign of low financial literacy. These goals are subjective. For some, it means saving for a trip. For others, having a plan to pay off debt. For others still, becoming millionaires. The key here is not to leave things to chance and take the necessary responsibility for your own financial future. 10. Never paying bills on time. Consistently missing bill payments can lead to additional charges and fees. Not paying bills, installments, or debts on time and then ending up paying more due to interest is a habit typical of financially illiterate people. As a rule, the only acceptable personal debt is a home mortgage. Everything else, if not necessary, should not be purchased by taking out loans, especially if they come with a high interest rate. Obviously, I'm speaking purely in terms of personal finance. If you have a business, borrowing money to reinvest is normal, as it is for large multinationals. But always pay attention to interest rates. That's all for today. Do you see yourself in some of these points? If you like, let us know in the comments. If you like this video, I recommend checking out the video. Would you take this bet that you can find on this channel? And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the notification bell so you don't miss future videos. See you next time.